Part 61. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 602. The southern ship lowered its altitude so that Yvonne could sense the position and strength of the alpha wolf. For low-level werewolves, high-level werewolves have a wolf king aura and are easy to identify. This is also the reason why Yvonne has never lived in the wilderness. If she enters the wilderness rashly, she is likely to be captured by a high-level werewolf and have to join the Wolf King's tribe. Flying, Yvonne said doubtfully, "Rudolph, something is wrong. There is a wolf in the level 4 werewolf tribe, but starting from the level 5 werewolf tribe we encountered, there is no wolf in the tribe. Without a wolf? Didn't the tribe fall into chaos immediately? There is no chaos. It seems that the alpha wolf has temporarily left the tribe. The other werewolves know that the alpha wolf will eventually return, so they maintain order. It's really strange. Let's find a werewolf tribe and see what's going on." The plan previously formulated was to directly find a level 6 werewolf tribe, grab the level 6 werewolves, let them leave immediately after Yvonne was promoted, and escape from the wilderness before the level 7 werewolves or even higher level werewolves could react. Now that the situation has changed, Rudolph decided to keep a low profile and try to avoid trouble. Capture a level 4 werewolf and see if the level 4 werewolves know where their alpha wolf has gone. The Starlight Southern ship landed far away from the werewolf tribe, and Rudolph and Yvonne approached the werewolf tribe secretly. In the werewolf tribe, the werewolves were roasting meat around a bonfire, and there were captured human women dancing for them beside the bonfire. The alpha wolf was not in the tribe, so the werewolves below took this opportunity to enjoy themselves. Those human dancers are the forbidden possessions of the alpha wolf, and other werewolves usually have no chance to appreciate them. After taking a sip of wine, a level 4 werewolf lamented that wine is a good thing. There is a civil war in the human kingdom. I don't know when will be the time to reap the benefits that the Wolf King said. When we enter the human kingdom, wine and women will definitely it's enough. The second sip of wine entered his mouth. The spicy sweetness made the werewolf feel comfortable, but he threw the bottle aside. The other werewolves thought that this werewolf was drunk again, and started acting like a drunk. I don't know when, a snake coiled around the neck of the level 4 werewolf. The sip of wine was not swallowed and was blocked in his mouth. The snake strangled his neck tightly. A strong force came from the neck, and the werewolf was pulled backwards by the snake, and then dragged backwards, quickly away from the bonfire. Only then did the other werewolves notice that something had just attacked the level 4 werewolf. It's the wizard. It's the wizard Starlight. The wizard's faint blue starlight was easy to distinguish. After the werewolves recognized it, they all yelled and threw down the bottles, and they all fell to the ground on all fours and entered an attack state. Unfortunately, the enemy disappeared together with the level 4 werewolf, disappearing into the darkness in the distance. They didn't even see the shadow of the enemy. They only saw a flash of blue light, and a level 4 werewolf was kidnapped. The slender starlight water snake strangled the werewolf's throat with its tail to prevent him from screaming, and quickly crawled away. The level 4 werewolf's arms could not break open this thin water snake. He was getting further and further away from the werewolf tribe. His eyes widened due to lack of oxygen, and he could only see that the werewolf tribe had entered a defensive state. Without the command of the alpha wolf, once faced with danger, the werewolves will not attack rashly, but will increase their defense. Soon, the werewolf was pulled under a big tree, and two people stood under the big tree. The starlight water snake let go of the werewolf's throat and poured in a breath of cold air, causing the werewolf to cough non-stop. "Werewolf, I think you can see the current situation clearly. What I ask is what you answer. Do you understand?" The starlight water snake climbed onto the werewolf's back, and its head spit out a snake message on his shoulder. "I understand. Please ask quickly, please. This werewolf is also weak and has no resistance at all." Rudolph asked, Where is your alpha wolf? Why are there no alpha wolves in the nearby werewolf tribes? The werewolf has no psychological burden of betraying the whereabouts of the alpha wolf, and he does not feel that this is betrayal. Master Wizard, not only the top wolves nearby, but all the top wolves have gone to Xuanhuan. The strongest werewolf tribe lives on the ancestral mountain. It is the werewolf tribe founded by Corvinus, the distant ancestor of werewolves and the ancestor of all werewolves. Corvinus is the title of the alpha wolf in the Xuanhuan werewolf tribe. When the previous generation of Corvinus ages, the new level 8 werewolves will challenge him and eventually become the new generation of Xuanhuan Wolf King, inheriting the name Corvinus. Lord Corvinus issued the highest level call, the Call of the Ancestral Mountain, requiring all werewolves above level 5 to go to the Ancestral Mountain to meet Corvinus. Rudolph was stunned, he didn't expect to hear such news. What do high-level werewolves want to do in Xuanhuan? At this moment, Rudolph suddenly heard a low growl in Ivan's throat. This was an uncontrollable instinctive growl. Yvonne suddenly stared at the moon in the sky, her eyes gradually becoming chaotic, her consciousness was slowly draining away, and her werewolf instinct was stimulated. Rudolph looked up at the moon. Today was not a full moon night. Rudolph deliberately chose an ordinary day to enter the wilderness to prevent Yvonne from being further disturbed on the full moon night. Level 4 werewolf. It was also obvious from Yvonne's aura that this beautiful silver-haired woman was a werewolf. It's the call of the ancestral mountain. The call of the ancestral mountain that has appeared since the last full moon. Corvinus stands on the top of the ancestral mountain, calling for his bloodline. Last time when the full moon came, Yvonne was still on the Sarago Sea, which was too far from the wilderness, so the call she felt was not strong. Now she was in the wilderness, the boundless wilderness was illuminated by the moonlight, and the call of the ancestral mountain had an extremely obvious impact on her. Full moon, late night, Yvonne needed these conditions to lose her mind before, but tonight these conditions did not hold true. Just a call from Corvinus, the distant ancestor of the werewolf, made Yvonne fall into mania. Yvonne's pupils changed first, and there was no gentleness in her pupils, turning into the yellow pupils of the werewolf. Soon, Yvonne's silver hair began to expand, and silver hair appeared on her body, and a level 5 silver mutant wolf king appeared. The captured level 4 werewolf looked at the white wolf with extreme fear. Didn't the wolf king go to the distant mountains? How could there be a wolf king here? After Yvonne transformed, she howled at the moon several times, then left Rudolph behind and ran towards a certain direction deep in the wilderness. Rudolph hurriedly followed. He didn't want to see Yvonne go to meet some werewolf ancestor, that would be like a wolf walking into a tiger's mouth. The level 4 werewolf stood there, watching the two people go away. He found that he actually survived. He thought his kidneys would be taken by the wizard to make a magic weapon. He had only a strong kidney. He was absolutely confident that if he died, his apostle power would definitely be gathered in his kidneys. That was his pride. Flying over the white wolf, Rudolph kept shouting Yvonne's name, Yvonne. Yvonne. Wake up. Wake up. No matter how he called, Rudolph couldn't wake up Yvonne. As a last resort, Rudolph used poison. A starlight water snake ran straight to the back of the white wolf, and the white wolf suddenly lit up with bright lightning. The starlight water snake is a level 5 star power creation, and may not be a match for the white wolf lightning. Rudolph had to turn his arm into water and merge with the starlight water snake to increase the strength of the water snake. The water snake successfully broke through the white wolf lightning's defense and bit the white wolf on the back. Rudolph's current toxins come from the ancient giant beast Hydra, which is not something a level 5 werewolf can resist. Soon the white wolf lost consciousness, and after falling, she rolled on the ground due to inertia. Instinct drove her to crawl forward, and she whimpered. The Starlight South ship appeared again and put the white wolf in. After thinking about it, Rudolph decided to go deeper into the wilderness. He wanted to know what the werewolves were going to do, and he didn't know where to find a level 6 werewolf for Ivan to be promoted. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 603. Bai Lang, who was in a coma, was still digging at the wall of Xuanhuan Nanchuan with her front paws. The direction her front paws pointed was the direction of Zushan. Rudolph did a divination for himself on the deck and found that the danger ahead was not unbearable and could go deeper. Rudolph wanted to know what happened to the werewolf tribe. Just as the Starlight South ship kept flying, Rudolph was suddenly stunned because he saw the giant. Rumbling footsteps, huge bodies, groups of giants, at least 20 giants of various levels, running wildly in the wilderness. The direction they are heading is also the direction of the werewolf ancestral mountain. What surprised Rudolph even more was that Rudolph saw his old friend among the giants, Butcher the Butcher. It was getting more and more chaotic. The moment he saw Butcher, Rudolph felt that things were getting out of control, and too many illogical things kept happening. Corvinus of Ancestral Mountain issued a call to all werewolves. High-level werewolves left their tribes and went to Ancestral Mountain. Giants who had always been low-key actually ran wildly in the wilderness in groups. What happened to the wilderness? The Starlight Southern ship landed, broke through the clouds, and entered the field of vision of the giants on the ground. The giants raised their heads one after another, looking up at the starlight creation falling from the sky. This ship showed the ability of wizards at first glance. The number of wizards on the southern ship was rare, and many giants living deep in the northern continent did not recognize this ship. Rudolph controlled the speed of the Nanchuan and did not let the Nanchuan go too fast. This way it did not appear to be much of a threat and would not cause the giants to overdo it. After landing at a certain height, Rudolph stood at the bow of the ship and shouted down, "Butcher! It's me, Rudolph." Butcher was also very surprised to see an acquaintance in this remote wilderness. His coming to this wilderness was already a very rare event. Meeting Rudolph in the wilderness could only be said to be a coincidence. "You guys go first. This is an acquaintance of mine. I'll have a few words with him." "Butcher, that's a wizard, it's too dangerous." "It's okay. Rudolph and I come from a small town. With our relationship, he won't take a fancy to my relics." The other giants continued to walk deeper into the wilderness. Butcher removed the giant's power and returned to normal size, waiting where he was, waiting for the Starlight South ship to land. "Rudolph, I'm sorry that I didn't stay in Fabro City all the time. Before I left, I asked my friend to take care of your 2 students. This is all I can do." "Mr. Butcher, of course you don't need to apologize for this. The growth of a wizard is always full of dangers, and there is no guarantee that someone will protect you. What I want to know is, why are you here?" Rudolph came to the wilderness to help Ivan get promoted. Now the matter has become complicated and confusing, so he is eager to know what happened in the wilderness. Butcher glanced at the direction the other giants were leaving, with some worry in his eyes. Rudolph saw the injuries on Butcher's body, and first took out 2 witchcraft weapons and said, "I have 2 witchcraft weapons that are not in use. Let them be gifts from you to protect my 2 students." Butcher did not give in and accepted the 2 witchcraft weapons. He said, "In normal times, I would not ask for your magic weapon, but now that the situation is critical, I will accept it first. With these 2 level 5 magic weapons, our actions will have an extra layer of protection. Rudolph, let's do it in the wilderness." Something big happened. "What's the big deal?" "The prophecy of Hermes." Hermes' prophecy, this was the first time Rudolph heard this prophecy. Hermes is the royal astrologer of the Mogwen Empire, a powerful level 8 word spirit. According to his prediction, the recent planetary movements indicate that a far-reaching event is about to happen in the northern continent. Rudolph waited quietly for Butcher to organize his words. Butcher was not very good at telling stories. On the land of the Mogwen Empire, there have always been a large number of giants living. Emperor Mogwen not only has a powerful royal knights, but also a powerful royal giant core. That giant core was the core that once followed Emperor Alec to drive out the evil gods. Because of the existence of the giant core, many giants have been living in the Mogwen Empire. The royal astrologer Hermes made a divination about the giants. The fog set by the Ares wizard Ptolemy dissipated over time, and Hermes knew the secret of the decline of the giants. Ptolemaic mists. The secret of the decline of giants. In recent encounters, the Ptolemaic content is somewhat high, as it is both the pillars of creation and the secret of the decline of giants. Worthy of being the world's first wizard and the first wizard to achieve immortality, Ptolemy's presence is so strong that no matter what major event it is, Ptolemy's shadow can be seen. The weakness of the giant, Rudolf thought of the giants he had seen. How should I put it, the strength of the giants was not strong among the apostles, and could even be said to be at the bottom. Even if it is a level 6 giant, Roberts will be taken away with an alchemical bullet without leaving any survivors. Roberts is too weak among the level 6 apostles, not even as good as Wells, the whale wizard of Zhongtian. What is the secret of the giant's downfall? Butcher said with an ugly face. Hermes said that he divined through the bloodline of the giants that the decline of the giants began after the war to expel the evil gods. After the divine war 2,000 years ago, the giants' ability never increased and there was no breakthrough. When other apostles grew up, the giants stagnated, making the giant appear weaker and weaker. It's not that the giants' abilities have degenerated, but that other apostles are developing their own abilities and their own bloodlines, while the giants have done nothing. For 2,000 years, it is impossible that there are no geniuses among the giants, and it is impossible that they are all mediocre, but the abilities of the giants have inexplicably not developed at all. Hermes' research told the giants that the 12 apostles should correspond to the 12 masters of immortality. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Ceres, Eris, Haumea, Charon, each planet or dwarf planet represents unique immortality. Ares wizard Ptolemy robbed the Lord of Mars that originally belonged to the giants, and robbed the authority of war that originally belonged to the giants. This is the reason why the giants are constantly weakening. It's not because the giants are weak, but because the Ares wizard Ptolemy robbed the authority of the giants, resulting in the deprivation of all the giants' war-related abilities, and the abilities can no longer be developed. Royal astrologer Hermes said that in order to solve the plight of the giants, one of the giants must be born to be immortal. His prophecy shows that another immortal lord is about to be born. The immortal opportunity of the Lord of Neptune has appeared. Neptune represents destruction, and the power of destruction will soon be accepted by people. After discussion in the Giant King's court, we decided to send the 8th level giant Goliath to the immortal position of the Lord of Neptune, so as to change the current weak status of all giants. Rudolf suddenly thought of a possibility. Then you came to the wilderness too? Yes. The power of destruction originally belongs to the werewolves, and we want to seize the immortal power of the werewolves. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 604. Butcher's deep and hoarse voice echoed in the empty hills. The power of war that originally belonged to the giants was taken away by the despicable thieves, and the fate of the giants has changed since then. The power of destruction that originally belonged to the werewolves was once again targeted by the despicable thieves. If the werewolves cannot obtain the power of destruction, they will get a destroyed wilderness. The power of destruction is about to appear in the world, and the catastrophe 2,000 years ago will be repeated again. Butcher spoke out the specific content of the prophecy, which shocked Rudolf. Thieves? Why didn't the royal astrologer dare to point out Ptolemy's name? Is it because of fear? If the 8th level word spirit was not the royal astrologer of Emperor Megwen, he would not dare to speak out the prophecy about Ptolemy, the lord of Mars. Rudolf scolded Ptolemy here, Maybe Ptolemy would not take it seriously. A small 6th level wizard is not worth Ptolemy's attention. However, the 8th level word spirit is different. The 8th level word spirit can really disrupt the situation on the continent with a prophecy. For example, now, a prophecy has made Mr. Butcher's hiding kitchen appear in this chaotic wilderness. Is there a second half of the prophecy? Didn't the royal astrologer say something that is beneficial to them? You are really smart, Rudolph, but I don't think you will be interested in the second half of the prophecy. The second half of the prophecy is that the northern continent will gather under the command of the Meguen royal family again and quell the chaos under the leadership of Emperor Meguen. Rudolph smiled. Sure enough, the royal astrologer could not simply predict the emergence of an eternal authority. His identity meant that he would definitely speak to the Meguen royal family. The first half of the prophecy is true, but the second half is not necessarily true. The promotion of the word spirit requires making a prophecy that can change the fate of enough people and make this prophecy come true. Involving the chaos in the northern continent, the people affected by this prophecy are enough to make the royal astrologer promoted to a terrible 9th level word spirit. No wonder the werewolf ancestor called all his bloodlines, no wonder groups of giants ran wildly in the wilderness. Behind these strange things, an 8th level word spirit made a divination that concerns the fundamental interests of the parties involved. If what the astrologer said is true, then the werewolf is now the most nervous apostle. The giant showed them once how miserable the result would be after losing the power of immortality. This is the nightmare of all apostles. Although they are huge giants, they can only hide in the corners like mice, timid and afraid to show their fangs. Giants are not opponents of any apostles. They have huge bodies but no powerful apostle abilities. If the relic that Rudolph needs is a 7th level giant relic, he will be very happy because it will not be difficult to obtain. This is the poor giant, their weakness is well known. After Ptolemy achieved the first immortality, he must have used some means to make immortality the most secret thing on the continent, so that no one knows how many immortals there are and who is immortal. If it weren't for this prophecy, the werewolves probably wouldn't know that destruction is their authority. Judging from the situation of the giant, there is only one case where the authority of immortality was taken away by other apostles. Apart from the giant, the abilities of other apostles have been evolving and becoming stronger, which is normal. It seems that whether the authority of immortality is vacant or obtained by the corresponding apostles will not cause such apostles to lose their core abilities. Rudolph suddenly remembered that he was misunderstood as omniscient by the evil god Fraud. Which apostle's authority of immortality is omniscient? I don't understand. I can't figure it out for the time being. I'd better try to avoid fraud cards as much as possible in the future. People who are used to defrauding others can't stand being deceived the most. If they knew that Rudolph had played a trick on him, the evil god Fraud would fly over from the southern continent without stopping and give Rudolph something cruel. It's so scary. Is it too late to apologize now? What kind of apology posture does Fraud like? It wasn't Rudolph who deliberately deceived him at the beginning. He insisted that Rudolph was omniscient, and Rudolph didn't refuse. It's too late to regret it now. The power of destruction that originally belonged to the werewolves was vacant, and the werewolves wanted to keep their power of immortality. Thinking about what the werewolves did, Rudolph felt that they did have a lot to do with destruction. Werewolves do not produce, they are predators in the wilderness, and they are also nightmares for human towns. Wherever the wolf tide goes, people and animals die, leaving no one alive. Rudolph, Hermes said that if the thieves succeed again like they did 2,000 years ago, then the werewolves will be like the giants, their abilities will not improve, and they can only watch other apostles surpass them. Rudolph suddenly understood why the pillar of creation had to come to warn Rudolph. Ptolemy's immortality is related to war, and he can only play the greatest threat on the battlefield. If Ptolemy accommodates an immortality power again, it will make him more terrifying and more powerful. Ptolemy is like a real protagonist, and he is everywhere. In order to get out of trouble, the giants are ready to fight to the death and seek the power of destruction. The werewolf also learned about this prophecy from some source. Rudolf even speculated that the content of this prophecy might have been deliberately released by the royal astrologer Hermes. Rudolf couldn't help but remind him, "Mr. Butcher, my instinct tells me that the original intention of the royal astrologer Hermes is not pure. His prophecy does not seem to be simply to help the giants. I know, we all know, but we have no other way. This is our only way out and our only chance to change the status quo. Every giant has been bullied by other apostles. We are tired of this pain. Only by mastering another immortality can we change our bad situation. But your strongest giant, Goliath, you mentioned, is only a level 8 giant. He is still far from immortality." Well, Goliath is the leader of the Royal Giant Corps. He will be promoted to a level 9 giant as soon as possible, become the king of giants, and then compete with werewolves for immortality, Butcher continued to explain. "Rudolph, I know what you want to say. Giants are weak, and it is very irrational to participate in the fight for immortality. However, Lord Goliath explained his idea to us, and we all think it is feasible. Emperor Megwen is a level 9 knight. As we all know, the Knight Emperor has the ability to kill gods. This is also the reason why the evil god has never dared to set foot on the northern continent in person. As long as there are enough soldiers behind him, his long sword can chop off the head of the immortal. With the support of Emperor Megwen, the Royal Giant Corps is not completely hopeless. I am not a radical among the giants. The radical giants can't wait to fight the werewolves and shout every day that the giants must obtain the power of destruction. I have become accustomed to hiding and escaping everywhere. Many giants have the same compromise idea as me. We, the survivalists, believe that even if the giants cannot obtain the power of immortality, even if Emperor Megwen obtains the power of destruction, it is acceptable to us. The Royal Giant Corps has been loyal to the Megwen royal family for more than 2,000 years. If the Megwen Empire becomes the kingdom of the Lord of Immortality, our giants' lives will also get better in the Megwen Empire. In any case, the radicals and moderates among the giants will not stand idly by." Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 605. Rudolph understood what Butcher meant. The giant did not say that after hearing the prophecy, he would fight against the werewolf or Ptolemy. They also watched while fighting. If there is a 10,000th chance, send the level 8 giant Goliath to become the Lord of Eternal Life. If there is no hope, then complete the duties of the Royal Giant Corps and help Emperor Megwen. The power of destruction does not belong to the giants anyway. If Emperor Megwen can obtain this authority, he can accept it. The chaos had just begun and the situation was still unclear. Rudolph estimated that the great emperor in the north was not very clear about his goal now. Maybe the great emperor has more information channels and can grasp the eternal authority that belongs to the knight in the chaos, or he can retreat to the next best option and obtain the authority of destruction. Rudolph didn't even know what the eternal authority that belonged to the knights was. These big guys were too scary. Rudolph said, "It's good if Mr. Butcher has a compromise idea. It would be too stupid for you to come to the wilderness to fight the werewolves. No, we are just here to investigate the situation. Fabro City is very close to the wilderness. After the people from the Royal Giant Corps found me, I came to help. This time I came to collect information about the werewolf tribe and estimate the strength of the werewolves." Butcher added. "Hermes' prophecy is very vague. We don't know when the power of destruction will appear. We only know a general direction. Hermes said that the southern end of the northern continent will become the focus of the future. The giant king Goliath has not yet go south, and only after he goes south will we start a war with the werewolves. At the southern end of the northern continent, isn't that the kingdom of Elba? This kingdom was truly troubled, first with civil war, and then with the eternal authority." Thinking about these fatal chaos, Rudolph suddenly said, Mr. Butcher, the second half of the prophecy you just said is that the northern continent will once again gather under the command of the Mogwen royal family. I figured it out, this prophecy is the key. If possible, please help me ask if the Mogwen royal family is still short of court teachers. I have studied educational psychology and teacher ethics theory, and I can definitely become a qualified court teacher. Cooper knew the style of Claude and Rudolph, master and apprentice, and understood that Rudolph was joking again. Okay, then I will ask the royal giant court to send a message to the royal family, saying that there is a wizard who wants to join the royal family and see if the royal family agrees. Haha, I'm waiting for your good news, Rudolph said, then I won't delay you. You can go find your companions first. Butcher once again transformed into a giant more than 100 meters tall and ran wildly into the depths of the wilderness. Every step he took could cause the earth to tremble. Rudolph stood there, feeling as if the world was about to be in chaos. The authority to destroy originally belonged to the werewolves, but there is no corresponding eternal lord. The prophecy of the royal astrologer Hermes made this matter extremely confusing. Werewolves, giants, and the pillars of creation were the first to get involved. Could it be that the Elba civil war is also related to this eternal authority? Since Ptolemy, a wizard, can possess the eternal power of giants, can knights and alchemists also possess werewolves? The evil god's counterattack on the northern continent is also related to the authority of eternal life. The eternal life of evil gods is imperfect. They do not have the authority to live forever. They must have some agenda. It was so chaotic that the northern continent suddenly turned into a pot of hot water with red charcoal fire underneath, which could boil at any time. Even Mr. Butcher, who has always been cautious, appeared in this wilderness, proving that the influence of chaos is very, very powerful. Eternal power is too far away for Rudolph, and surviving this chaos is more important than anything else. Rudolph looked back and saw that the white wolf was still locked in the cabin of the Nan ship. Rudolph did not dare to let the white wolf participate in the chaos in the wilderness. Alchemists command low-level alchemists and need to transfer some of their benefits. Knights command low-level knights and need to divide a part of the land. As for the three types of apostles, priests, werewolves and vampires, high-level ones have strong control over low-level ones. So it was with Calico Jack, and so it was with Yvonne. Wolf servant, blood servant, and God servant, this is the first step to becoming these three types of apostles. You can also see from the names the special features of these three types of apostles. The call of the werewolf's distant ancestor is not as effective as the evil god's oracle, but it is not something that ordinary werewolves can resist. Rudolph could imagine the scene. On the distant ancestral mountain, all werewolves above level 5 were crawling on the ground, waiting for their distant ancestors to issue orders. He boarded the Nanshipan and did not go further into the wilderness. Instead, he found a level 6 werewolf tribe according to the map and waited outside the tribe, hoping to find a level 6 werewolf as soon as possible. The white wolf reacted greatly. The white wolf was very irritable, and even in his coma, he was frantically digging at the walls of the Nanshipan. Rudolph did not dare to increase the dose of toxin for fear of causing greater harm to the white wolf. The Nanshipan is strong enough, so let the white wolf do the hard work. Finally, when dawn came and the night passed, Yvonne exited the transformed form and fell into a deep sleep in the cabin. Checked Yvonne's condition, not that bad. A whole day passed, and as time passed, Yvonne's breathing became easier and easier. It was not until night that Yvonne slowly woke up. Yvonne, how do you feel? Rudolph found some spring water and after drinking the spring water, Yvonne looked much better. Rudolph, yesterday I couldn't control my instinct. The call of Zushan kept echoing in my ears, making it difficult for me to control my behavior. I just wanted to go to the top of Zushan to see Zucorvinus. Rudolph comforted her. There is nothing we can do about it. Your abilities come from werewolves. All werewolf abilities come from werewolf ancestors. The Zushan werewolf tribe has bloodline abilities. Priests will worship evil gods, blood clans will worship blood clan ancestors, and if you live in a werewolf tribe, you will also worship werewolf ancestors. This is an instinct that is passed down like abilities. It's not your fault. I hope we can wait for a level 6 werewolf as soon as possible and stay away from the wilderness. The farther away from the wilderness, the less impact the wilderness will have on you. Rudolph also explained to Ivan the news he heard from Mr. Butcher. The emergence of the power of destruction has made all parties eager to move, and they all have the idea of competing for the power of eternal life. Fortunately for Rudolph, about 2 weeks later, Rudolph encountered a level 6 werewolf. Groups of werewolves returned from the depths of the wilderness and were returning to their respective tribes. The organization of these werewolves is obviously much higher. Werewolves of the same level no longer fight endlessly, otherwise they will fight over the size of the tribal territory. A level 6 werewolf left the werewolf team and was ready to return to his tribe. His face was full of excitement. If they could help their ancestor Konuavis achieve immortality, their abilities would be greatly enhanced, and the werewolves would get more land, more captives, and more food. On the contrary, if the power of immortality was taken away by others, the werewolves would become weak apostles like the giants. Just when he was 1 kilometer away from the tribe, just when he could see the tribe with his werewolf vision, he suddenly looked up and saw a star in the starry sky getting bigger and bigger. After a little confusion, he immediately found that it was not a star, it was a starlight creation, a starlight ship. The level 6 Cyan werewolf saw the level 5 mutant white wolf falling from the starlight south ship, and saw the wizard floating in the air. The level 6 werewolf understood that someone was going to recommend the mutant white wolf for promotion. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 606. Before the level 6 werewolf realized what kind of enemy he was about to face, Rudolph raised his hand and fired an absolute hit. The bullet ignored the space and hit the level 6 werewolf directly on the shoulder. The poison on the warhead is so strong that the level 6 werewolf feels like he has lost half of his body in an instant. Starting from the shoulders to the knees, the entire left side of the body lost consciousness, and the huge wolf body fell to the left. The white wolf took advantage of the situation and pounced forward, but in the next moment, the starlight water snake stopped the white wolf at the waist, preventing the white wolf from rushing forward rashly. Even a hemiplegic level 6 werewolf would be a bit dangerous for Ivan to deal with. Sure enough, the level 6 werewolf whimpered and roared, and the wolf hairs all over his body stood up, and the hedgehog-like wolf hairs flew out. These wolf hairs flew around like steel needles, creating a barrier around the level 6 werewolf. The blue wolf fur contains the power of hurricanes. This is a mutated green wolf that masters the power of hurricanes. The cyan barrier will cause all the stones inside the barrier to rotate at high speed with the wind, and eventually be shattered in the hurricane. The werewolf created a circular open space around it. Not to mention stones, even alchemical metals would be torn apart by the hurricane in that barrier. This is the special ability of the mutant green wolf, giving him the ultimate hurricane ability. It's just that this barrier is very unstable, sometimes strong and sometimes weak, and the speed of the wolf hairs in the barrier is sometimes fast and sometimes slow. This is because Rudolph is adjusting the intensity of the poison and testing the werewolf's ability to resist poison. Hydra's poison is very strong. Except for knights and werewolves, other apostles of the same level will immediately lose the ability to move after being poisoned. Werewolves' bodies are very powerful, and they can still resist such poisons. Ivan, after you are promoted, will you also have this kind of wolf hair barrier? The white wolf's eyes were full of desire, the desire for promotion. Rudolph and Cooper had been promoted successively, and she needed to be promoted too, otherwise she would hold Rudolph back. The green wolf hair barrier makes the figure of the level 6 werewolf inside very blurry. You can vaguely see the level 6 werewolf splitting into a werewolf. The newly appeared werewolf bites the level 6 werewolf's shoulder, tearing off a large piece of meat, and quenches it. The poisonous bullet also bit down. The newly appeared werewolves were quickly poisoned, but the level 6 werewolves also gained valuable breathing time. The level 6 werewolf ignored the white wolf on the ground. He suddenly jumped up and pounced on the wizard in the air. He knew very well that the level 5 white wolf was not the key, but the wizard in the sky was the key. Being able to use the toxin that paralyzed him means that the wizard in the air is a level 6 wizard. King Glang's wolf hair barrier allows the werewolf to gain extremely fast speeds. The spiral wolf hair barrier is like a jet engine, pushing the werewolf into the air at extremely fast speeds. Rudolph raised his gun again, and this time, he aimed at the werewolf's heart. The forelimbs are slightly set back, in the center of the chest, which is the werewolf's heart. With a violent bombardment, the wolf hair barrier collided with the head of the starlight snake Hydra. Rudolph, who was protected by Hydra's snake head, discovered that after the snake head came into contact with the wolf hair barrier, it was blown away by the wolf hair barrier. 3 consecutive snake heads were thrown backward the moment they hit the wolf hair barrier. However, the bullet that hit the werewolf's chest sent poison into the werewolf's heart. The werewolf could no longer maintain his wolf hair barrier and collapsed into a violent hurricane. Taking this opportunity, the remaining snake heads sprayed out thick poisonous mist. The strong wind after the wolf hair barrier collapsed dispersed some of the poisonous mist, but there was too much poisonous mist, and a lot of poisonous mist still fell on the werewolves. The werewolf's pupils had an ominous purple color, which was a sign of poisoning. When the werewolf fell heavily to the ground, Rudolph said to the white wolf, "Come on, Ivan, get promoted." 2 consecutive absolute hits, the poison of the mythical beast Hydra. Rudolph just wanted a quick victory. This werewolf was no match for Rudolph. A strong electric light appeared in the white wolf's mouth, and it ran over and bit the level 6 werewolf's throat hard. The power of the apostle belonging to the level 6 werewolf continued to enter the white wolf's throat. The white wolf's body further expanded, and the white wolf's wolf fur changed visibly to the naked eye, becoming more shiny and sharp, with a white light on it. Rudolph also fell around the white wolf and watched the white wolf advance. Level 6 werewolves have long lost their ability to resist due to the poison and the bite of the white wolf. There was blood foaming in his mouth, and he was whimpering without knowing what he was saying. Rudolph listened closer and heard the level 6 werewolf's reluctance. "Unfair, unfair." Rudolph knew what the level 6 werewolf wanted to say. The werewolf felt that it was very unfair for him to be defeated by the white wolf. There was a wizard behind the white wolf, but the level 6 werewolf only had himself. "I know this is unfair. I can only complain that your territory is too far away from Ancestral Mountain and high-level werewolves cannot support you. But your death is not unfair. You are quite close to where humans live. If Werewolf Ancestral Mountain wants to, what are you going to do? Maybe you are a pioneer. Dealing with you here can be regarded as a precaution for human towns. Whether you accept it or not, this is life. There are too many injustices and unwillingness." After a few minutes, the white wolf released the level 6 werewolf's throat. It is now the first half of the moon, there is only a thin line on the moon, and the white wolf howls distantly at the moon. The howl of the wolf was transmitted to the nearby level 6 werewolf tribe. The werewolves of this tribe understood that their wolf king, the level 6 mutant green wolf, had died and a new wolf king was born. The werewolves in the tribe lay on the ground, not daring to look up, waiting for the new wolf king to come and receive her tribe. However, half an hour later, the new wolf king did not appear. Some low-level and brave werewolves looked up and found that a blue light point flew into the air in the distance and disappeared. On the south ship, Rudolph took Ivan to fly towards the kingdom of Elba. "Ivan, we should try to stay away from the wilderness. When you come to the wilderness, you will inevitably be affected by other werewolves. It is better to stay in the human world." "Okay." Of course, Ivan would listen to Rudolph's instructions, but her focus now is not on these things at all. She lowered her head and stared at her hands. The skin on the back of her hands was rougher than other places, but after the promotion, the back of Yvonne's hands was white and glowing. Rudolph, my skin is getting better and better. Really? Let me see. After grabbing Yvonne's hand, Rudolph found that the evolution of the wolf hair made Yvonne's skin tender and white, which was very attractive. The skin on the back of my hand has improved, let me check to see if the skin on other parts has improved. A dozen seconds later, Yvonne lay on her back on the wide captain's chair, with her blushing face turned to one side, allowing Rudolph to stare at her. Rudolph lowered his head and said in surprise, "Oh my God, it really turned pink and white. Smooth and pink. If I had known this, I wouldn't have wasted so much time at sea, I should have helped Yvonne get promoted all the time." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 607. Outside Belfort Harbor, a starry sailboat broke through the clouds in the night sky, descended from the sky under the illumination of the crescent moon, and slowly fell towards the volcano. The blue starry sailboat made the sea surface look like a layer of blue gauze, and this appearance was very eye-catching. People in Belfort knew that a cargo ship of a large shipping company was docked in the port recently. This shipping company was powerful and could run rampant in the waters of the Elba Alchemy Council, the royal family and the evil god cult. The starry sailboat proved that the owner of the shipping company was back. Rudolph and Yvonne landed on the volcano. Yvonne's temperament was even more outstanding, especially her white and shining silver hair and skin. The surrounding deck seemed to be illuminated. The crew cast envious eyes one after another. The changes in Miss Yvonne proved that she had completed the promotion. The Volcano Shipping Company has one more level 6 apostle, and its strength is even stronger. Cooper floated forward and asked, "Rudolph, did you bring me a lot of level 6 werewolf corpses?" "Level 6 werewolf corpses? The wilderness is a powder keg now, I dare not stay any longer. Are the werewolves so lucky? Did the goddess of luck favor them? This is not your style. Level 6 werewolves are also rare. They are not fish in the fish market, which are everywhere. I won't talk to you for now. Where is Mackenzie?" Seeing Mackenzie coming up, Rudolph asked, "Is the cargo ship full? Can we leave the port?" Rudolph and Yvonne waited outside the level 6 werewolf tribe for half a month, which was enough time to fill the cargo hold of the giant. Mackenzie said, "It's full. We've received a lot of shipping orders, all of which are for goods heading to Oyster Bay. Have you collected the things you need for promotion?" "Almost all of them have been collected. The Black Gold Institute has a very good attitude and has allocated a lot of things for us." "That's good. Notify them. We'll set sail tomorrow at noon and leave here." Mackenzie didn't know why Captain Furnace was so anxious, but the captain must have his reasons for doing so. The news he heard in the wilderness was too shocking, and Rudolph wanted to get away from here as soon as possible. After Mackenzie left, Rudolph went to the Black Gold Institute alone. In the VIP lobby of the Black Gold Institute, Celine saw the serious-looking Furnace. She was a little surprised. She didn't know why Furnace looked so serious after going to the wilderness. After arriving at the VIP suite prepared for Rudolph, Rudolph asked, "Celine, does Black Gold have many branches in the Megwen Empire?" "Yes, the Black Gold in the Megwen Empire is much more stable than here, and the Knight's rule makes there rarely chaos." "Celine, I want to inquire about the news of Hermes, the royal astrologer of the Megwen Empire, and his predictions." "It's not that he doesn't trust the predictions Mr. Butcher told him, but he wants to use this information to guess the reaction of other forces to the power of destruction." Celine was stunned after hearing this. She has been staying in the Eagle's Beak Peninsula at the southern end of the northern continent and doesn't know the distant Megwen Empire in the north. Wait a minute, Mr. Furness, I'll ask the intelligence trader of the black gold to see if I can apply for that information. Seeing Celine's serious look, Rudolph felt that the black gold might really have obtained some valuable information. Celine, given our relationship, you don't have to be so polite and formal, you can be more casual. My profession is a trading host, and my identity as a professional woman is also part of why you like me, so I want to stay true to myself. Celine smiled and left, and Rudolph had no choice. Half an hour later, Celine entered the VIP suite with a file bag. Mr. Furness, this information involves the royal astrologer of the Megwen Empire, and the price is expensive. It doesn't matter, no matter how expensive it is definitely within my ability to pay. Rudolph is very rich. The wealth of Redbeard and Giant Roberts, the rewards of the Golden Anchor family, and a large number of level 5 priest relics allow him to buy intelligence from the black gold without blinking an eye. Celine said, Mr. Furness, we also learned what happened in the wilderness. Giants are collecting intelligence in the wilderness, high-level werewolves are crawling under the ancestral mountain, and the Blood Clan has walked out of the castle. It is extremely chaotic there. If I guess correctly, the information you want to know is related to the prophecy. Opening the file bag handed by Celine, Rudolph quickly searched the contents of the file. The royal astrologer Hermes has a high status in the Megwen Empire. Next to Emperor Megwen, there is always a chair prepared for the royal astrologer. The royal astrologer Hermes does not need to salute when he sees Emperor Megwen. Hermes predicted and led the reform of the Megwen Empire, which made the national strength of the Megwen Empire reach a higher level. In the process of reform, he was promoted step by step and became a terrible 8th level word spirit step by step. Hermes' promotion is inseparable from the cooperation of the Megwen royal family, which also made Hermes offer absolute loyalty to Megwen 9. Rudolph saw another important piece of information in Hermes' intelligence, which made Rudolph's pupils suddenly shrink. Hermes' teacher, the imperial royal astrologer more than 200 years ago, also gave a prophecy about the authority of eternal life. That prophecy was about the authority of omniscience. Omniscience represents the authority of knowledge and logic. According to the prophecy more than 200 years ago, once you master the authority of omniscience, you can see through the secrets and learn all knowledge. The evil god deceived Rudolph as omniscience. It turns out that omniscience is really one of the authorities of eternal life. Judging from the alchemist's crazy war, the omniscient authority should have belonged to the alchemist. During the Constitutional War more than 200 years ago, the alchemist hung a nobleman from a street lamp and controlled at least half of the power in the continent through the war. The vigorous constitutional revolution was finally defeated by the knights and other apostles. The alchemist's constitutional war did not achieve a complete victory. This is the reason why there are many constitutional monarchy kingdoms on the continent. The outcome of the war that changed the direction of the northern continent was confusing. The master of omniscient authority, the Lord of Jupiter, is still in a state of chaos. No one knows whether the Lord of Jupiter exists or not, and no one knows who the Lord of Jupiter is. Judging from the alchemist's ability to continue to improve, the omniscient authority has not been obtained by other apostles. However, judging from the deceitful attitude of the evil god, the omniscient authority is not controlled by the alchemist either. It turns out that the major events in history were not just struggles for power and resources, but also the promotion and planning of high-level apostles. For the 9th-level apostles, they do not lack wealth, status, or women. The only thing that can make them fight for everything is the authority of eternal life. For example, now, the royal astrologer of the Mogwen Empire has once again made a prediction of the authority of eternal life, the authority of destruction, and the birth of the Lord Neptune. This is another bloody storm. No matter how hard the low-level apostles work, they can bring disaster to one street at most. Once a high-level apostle takes action, half of the continent will fall into disaster. Because it was a prophecy made more than 200 years ago, Hagen happily gave it to him. Regarding the prophecy of destruction power that just appeared, the information of the Black Gold Institute is no more than what Rudolph knows and guesses. Rudolph closed the material and sighed. What's the price of this information? I'll pay you 2 pieces of level 5 witchcraft. What? Rudolph spent a lot of effort to keep himself from jumping up. After reading a few lines of words, he asked for 2 level 5 witchcraft. Rudolph thought that the price of this information would be high, but he didn't expect it to be so high. Mr. Furness, this information involves the royal astrologer of the Mogwen Empire and the secrets behind the Constitutional War. This is the lowest discount I can get for you. Celine was about to cry. She had done everything she could. The fees charged by the Black Gold Institute were indeed very high, but there was no way. With the Black Gold Institute's pricing, she had the authority to only get a certain discount. Okay, 2 level 5 priest magic weapons, I keep my word. No matter how heartbroken he was, Rudolph would always say, I'm rich. Never mind. After leaving the Black Gold Institute, Rudolph walked towards the city center, where he came to where the county judicial office was located. Upon hearing that the visitor announced his identity, the witch hunter quickly went to find the director and director of the department. Director Duke, you are the director of the provincial judicial department. Why are you staying in the county town of Belfort? Rudolph observed Duke's office and found that there were many daily necessities in this office, and it did not look like a temporary office. Duke smiled bitterly, I also really want to stay in Yingzhui City, the capital of the province, but I have no choice. Belfort City is facing the pressure of the evil god cult in the southern continent, so I have to stay here permanently. Mr. Furness, you took the initiative to find me. Because of what? Rudolph said, I want to know which evil god's believers are the most smuggled believers to the northern continent now. In the beginning, it was the pain believers who were least afraid of suffering and the harsh environment. Later, there were the annihilation believers. Now there are some other believers, but the annihilation believers are the main ones. Rudolph frowned. Among the evil gods, is annihilation the one who is most interested in the power of destruction? I hope you can take precautions, but never let the followers of the evil god build a temple. If there is an evil god temple in Belfort City, then I will never be able to come to the city again. Hopefully, we are working hard. Mr. Furness, can we cooperate in fighting the evil cult? Limited cooperation is possible. Duke was stunned. The last time he saw Furness was still resolute. He just wanted to run his trading company and didn't want to deal with the affairs of the evil god cult. But he went to the wilderness and actually relented? Rudolph was warned by the pillars of creation not to stop the cult of evil. The pillars of creation want chaos, greater chaos. But now it involves the authority of the werewolf. Rudolph is afraid that this matter will affect Yvonne, so he wants to test the situation on the edge of danger, just in case when chaos comes, the pillar of creation will have no time to care about him. That's great. If we need it again, we will contact you. At noon the next day, the volcano and giants set sail, leaving Port Balfour for Oyster Bay Harbor. Although the big pirates disappeared, the merchant ships were even more frightened, because after the big pirates disappeared, more unscrupulous small pirates appeared on the sea. They did not have ports like the big pirates, and they really made a living by robbery. Moreover, the navy of the evil god cult has also become extremely active. They are constantly compressing the scope of activities of ships in the northern continent, and they are more like pirates than pirates. Whether it was a small pirate or a cult navy, after seeing the volcano flag, they would silently change their course and avoid the two ships. The volcano flag represents that the captain is the Forge, a shipping company that little pirates cannot afford to mess with. The strongest pirate among the little pirates, the level 4 knight who had just gained fame, died in the hands of the Forge not long ago. The evil god cult even tells each other not to mess with the furnace if they are not strong enough. Unless they were carrying out the important will of the evil god, the 8th-level cardinal priests rarely left the temple where the evil god lived. The 7th-level White Devil High Priest Jacob proved that the combination of the 7th-level High Priest and the artifact could not gain an advantage against the furnace. Therefore, the evil god acquiesced that its navy and ships could take shelter after seeing the volcano flag. This was a message that was not officially released, but it was soon observed by other merchant ships. Wherever the volcano sailed, the evil god navy would stay away from it, which was the best recognition of the strength of the furnace. These factors led to the Volcano Trading Company becoming a unique shipping company on the Sarago Sea. The route from Belfort Port to Oyster Bay Port was not safe, but the volcano could pass quickly. The pack giant made the trading company a lot of money, almost earning the promotion fees of the crew. While watching the giant unloading in Oyster Bay, Rudolph turned around and whispered to Mackenzie, "Mackenzie, go to the Black Gold office here and see if there are any smugglers here. Is there anyone who dares to sell the Alchemy Council's products to the port of Quarter?" "Ah, Captain, are there really smugglers who dare to make this much money?" "Haha, there are definitely some. There were so many people who collaborated with the enemy during the war. There were such people everywhere. They not only collaborated with the enemy, but also became extremely rich by collaborating with the enemy. The nobles lacked the weapons of the alchemists, and the alchemists lacked the food of the nobles. Both sides had a strong need to exchange what they had, but this need was difficult to achieve. Our strength and identity can just do this." That night, Mackenzie brought a smuggler to the volcano. The smuggler waited outside the captain's room, and Mackenzie went in first to talk to Rudolph about the simple situation. "Captain, I've heard of the smuggler Snag before. It's said that he's in the Constitutional Army and still has access to the South Continent, and can sell things to the South Continent. I didn't find him, he found me, and he wanted to sell things to Kitterport. Let him in." Rudolph saw a middle-aged man with a big belly walk in. Because he was too fat, the slits between his eyes were very small. From the sharp eyes in the slits, it can be seen that this is definitely a capable person. "Respected Captain Furnace, I finally see you. I've wanted to see you for a long time, and today I finally see your face on this powerful volcano." Rudolph smiled, didn't care about his flattery, and asked, "Mr. Snag, I heard that you have some trade needs." 2 in 1. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 608. Captain Furnace, your ship is flying the flag of Cotterport and the flag of Golden Anchor. This is a symbol of Sarago's maritime strength. None of the alchemists' ships dare to fly these two harbor flags. If possible, I hope to reach cooperation with you and ask your ship to help me transport some goods. Where to transport it? This shipment is not in a hurry. I learned about your upcoming voyage through Manager Mackenzie. The port of Kodur, controlled by the Royal Navy, and the port of Balfour on the Eagle's Beak Peninsula are all on the way with my cargo. Rudolph asked doubtfully, in other words, you not only want to send the goods from Oyster Bay Port to Port Kodur, but you also want to send the goods from Port Kodur to Port Balfour? Snag smiled and said nothing. He couldn't elaborate any more. It would be too obvious that he had surrendered to the enemy. Rudolph thought for a while and said, "The Volcano Trading Company is willing to take this voyage, but your things will not arouse the suspicion of the Constitutional Army, right?" "Absolutely not. There is absolutely no problem with the Constitutional Army. I can get the combat plan of the Constitutional Army and the Navy, and I can avoid the Navy by then. Captain Furnace, please rest assured that my things are all civilian supplies, and the Navy will not say anything even if they are found. This batch of goods is some alchemical metals, or alchemical metals for civilian use, which cannot reach the level of military use. If it is alchemical metal, it will be sold to the nobles for a sky-high price. After the nobles take the alchemical metal and forge it, it can be turned into an alchemical weapon. Deal, This is our first cooperation. I hope this cooperation goes well and we can develop into long-term trading partners in the future. You can discuss the details of the transaction with manager Mackenzie. Rudolph suddenly remembered something. The loading process needs to wait until the Constitutional Army has packed the ashes of the Royal Marines before loading your cargo. This is what I promised the Marquis of Golden Anchor. This matter is very important. You don't have to worry about this. As far as I know, the Constitutional Army has been preparing for a long time. They have only prepared more than 100 ashes. They can be installed within an hour and will not take up much cabin space. The Constitutional Army is indeed not as old as the Royal Navy and appears to be much more barbaric. After loading more than 100 ashes and a shipload of smuggled alchemical metals, the volcano and the giants set off for the port of Cotter. If Roberts had not been left alive, would he have regretted that he had not found the correct way to use the giant after he knew that the giant's huge hull was so suitable for loading cargo? The voyage on the sea was long and boring. The volcano also encountered pirate ships from a distance. However, after the pirates saw the flag on the volcano, they all turned around and fled as fast as they could. Forge is no longer a pirate, but Forge is more famous among pirates. It was the ship of Forge and Green Skull, the big pirates of the previous generation, and it was not something that ordinary small pirates could deal with. As for the Constitutional Army Navy and the Evil God Navy, they could only follow them from a distance for a period of time. After confirming that the volcano had left the waters they were responsible for, they watched the volcano leave without incident. These were small things. Rudolph encountered more troublesome things. Is it getting worse? Yes, Rudolph, it's getting worse and worse. The closer it gets to the full moon night, the more flustered I get. I didn't expect that Corvinus had such a serious influence on other werewolves. Rudolph didn't know what to do. After this generation of Corvinus issued the call of the ancestral mountain, it aroused the surrender instinct in the werewolf blood. All werewolves all have a unified goal, and all werewolves must serve him to achieve eternal life. You are far away from the wilderness, but you are still affected by the power of your blood. This was a troublesome matter, and Rudolph wondered where to find some way to counter the call of Xuanhuan. Ivan is not an exception. There must be other werewolves wandering in the wilderness. Maybe there have been werewolves in history who have developed countermeasures. Amidst the worries, the night of the full moon, which is very special to werewolves, arrives. In order to prevent accidents, Rudolph and Ivan left early on the Starlight Southern ship. Ivan's uneasiness was written on her face, and she once again remembered her previous fear of the full moon. She went from a level 1 werewolf to a level 4 werewolf. Every full moon night she would lose her mind and turn into a pure beast. This was the last thing she wanted to happen, but there was nothing she could do about it. After becoming a level 5 werewolf, Ivan will still transform due to mania every full moon night, but she will not lose her mind. After the transformation, the violent energy in the body will not be restrained by the small human form, so it will be more comfortable. Now, after being promoted to level 6, she met Corvinus, the distant ancestor of the werewolf, who issued the call of the ancestral mountain. The impact of the full moon on Ivan was serious again, very serious. When the time passed 12 o'clock at midnight, when the full moon was at its brightest, Ivan instinctively looked up at the full moon, and her pupils reflected the full moon. When a werewolf is illuminated by the full moon, the manic power in his blood will flow unchecked. The werewolf will turn into a beast that only knows destruction. They will tear up everything in front of them out of control and act only on instinct. In the werewolf tribe, this instinct is reflected in the fact that wherever the wolf king rushes, other werewolves will rush to it. Whatever the wolf king bites, other werewolves will rush to bite it. Surrendering to the instinct of the wolf king prevents werewolves from biting each other. Under the light of the full moon, a giant white wolf appeared on the Starlight South ship. The Starlight South ship can be large or small. Rudolph expanded the Starlight South ship to give the giant wolf plenty of room to move. The white wolf kept shaking his head, and she heard the call of Xuanhuan again. Rudolph looked in the direction of the wilderness. Perhaps deep in the wilderness, on the top of the legendary ancestral mountain, Corvinus was howling at the moon wolf. This wolf howl is a declaration of power and an urge to the werewolves, urging them to prepare for the war of invading human villages and towns according to Corvinus's request. The werewolves must be the most anxious when the power of destruction appears. They really want to get the power of destruction before other apostles. The giants are the second most anxious. The giants really want to occupy the power of destruction so that they will no longer be bullied by other apostles. And other powerful people on the continent, Megwen 9, royal astrologer Hermes, Carloman 16 who launched the war in advance, Prime Minister House of the Elba Alchemy Council, and even the evil gods, are all ready to move. Of course, there are also the pillars of creation that warned Rudolph, and Ptolemy, the lord of Mars behind the pillars of creation. No one knows what will happen if 2 immortal powers are obtained. Does it take 3 immortal powers to become above immortality? Damn, can't these big guys to toss themselves? It makes the people below war and call, and no one is easy. Why don't those big guys find an empty field and fight to the death, instead of dragging the entire continent down with them? A grain of sand from the era is like a mountain when it falls uneven. Looking at the suffering white wolf, Rudolph has a headache. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 609. Under the full moon, a distant wolf howl suddenly sounded on the empty sea. The white wolf began to howl at the full moon. Rudolph did not understand the meaning of the wolf howl, but he could hear the anxiety of the wolf howl. After the white wolf howled, it looked in the direction of the wilderness and was about to run there. She jumped off the Starlight South ship, and began to run wildly on the sea. The white wolf was so fast that there was lightning on its front and back paws, and every step could stir up countless steam. Rudolph did not use poison on the white wolf at the first time. He wanted the white wolf to fully release first, and then restrain her after the white wolf's most violent energy passed. The sea was very big, and the white wolf had enough space to release the mania in his heart. Running all the way on the sea, the waves were very big, and the waves of more than 10 meters were like rolling hills, but the white wolf could run as if walking on flat ground. The south ship flew into the air, so that Rudolph could see the direction of the white wolf more clearly. After running for more than 10 minutes, the white wolf passed the initial excitement period and slowed down, but still ran towards the wilderness firmly. Rudolph suspected that if he did not take action, the white wolf would keep running towards the wilderness, towards the ancestral mountain of the werewolves, and then crouch in front of Corvinus, the incarnation of the werewolves' ancestors, which was something Rudolph did not want to see. The Starlight South ship suddenly accelerated and hit the white wolf. The starlight plate on the side of the south ship disappeared, and the white wolf was put into the south ship. The white wolf's wolf hair stood up and shot out, forming a wolf hair barrier around her. The flying wolf hair was like a silver needle, and there was lightning flashing between the wolf hair, making the wolf howl barrier like a terrifying spherical thunder ball. Soon, the level 5 Starlight Creation South ship was shattered by the lightning wolf howl barrier. The white wolf did not recognize Rudolph at all. A ferocious snake head broke through the sea water, opened its mouth and bit the white wolf, then closed its mouth and instantly held the white wolf in its mouth. The lightning wolf howl barrier caused much less damage to the starlight snake. Star power was constantly replenished to repair the starlight body destroyed by the wolf howl barrier. The poisonous mist poured out of the snake's throat and was inhaled by the white wolf, who kept resisting. Slowly, the white wolf's movements became smaller and smaller. Rudolph looked at the white wolf with concern. The white wolf was in pain, but Rudolph had no choice. He couldn't let the white wolf run towards the werewolf ancestral mountain. Just as the sea was turning upside down, in the distant Eagle's Beak Peninsula, in a tailor shop in Belfour City, the level 7 werewolf Dolph was choosing suits with his men. Since you have entered human society, you should follow the customs of human society. You can't be like in the tribe. The tailor shop owner was bitten to death because he didn't want to sell suits to 5 naked men. The body lay in the corner of the tailor shop, and blood flowed all over the floor. Lord Wolf King, the map shows that this place is very far from the Holy Grail City, the capital of the Elba royal family. Level 7 Werewolf Dolph finally found a suitable yellow suit, which was similar to the color of his hair. It doesn't matter, it's far from a problem. I hope those nobles can agree to our request and cooperate with us to attack the Elba Alchemy Council together. After putting on a yellow suit, Dolph's temperament changed drastically, from a rough werewolf wrapped in animal skins to a werewolf wearing a clown suit, but he didn't recognize that this cheap suit was a clown's performance costume, he just thought that the suit really suited him. Late in the second half of the night, Rudolph and Ivan returned to the volcano exhausted. Seeing the two hurriedly get into the cabin, the ship's Dr. Drake couldn't help but ask Cooper, "Furnace is in good health. He was so busy until so late." "If I'm not mistaken, Ivan has some injuries on her body." "Rudolph's body has always been good. He said that he has contained several night relics and giant relics, and his body has been transformed to be very powerful. Let me tell you a secret, you must not tell Ivan." "Oh? What secret?" "Rudolph once saw 3 women in one day, and the last one was Ivan. I heard from my teacher Gray that Rudolph's former boss, Sheriff Claude, could also see many women in one day. This secret is really big." Drake looked at the level 6 zombie with pity. This poor virgin actually thought this was a big deal. In Drake's opinion, only virgins would pay attention to such things. In fact, for men, power and strength are the most important, and women are just lubricants to adjust their moods. The volcano sailed smoothly on the sea, but Rudolph was not happy at all. He didn't know if there was an antidote for the Damsutian call. For Ivan, resisting the call was too painful. On a full moon night, Ivan got better after 2 days and was no longer tortured by the call at night. The volcano sailed smoothly on the Sarago Sea and saw the port of Cordur a week later. After entering the port of Cordur, Rudolph first contacted the military and asked the military to prepare a ceremony for the transfer of ashes. When the military saw that there were only more than 100 ashes, they were indignant. Then the military notified Rudolph that the ashes would stay on the ship first. They had to prepare a grand transfer ceremony for the most soldiers to participate to prove the meanness of the constitutional army. Rudolph had no objection to this, and it was okay to stay longer. In addition to the ashes, the volcano also waited for the consignee of the smuggled goods. Seeing the Marquis' Falcon attendant church come to the giant to pick up the goods with evidence, Rudolph was a little surprised, but he also felt it was natural. The person who could swallow so much alchemical metal must be the Marquis of Golden Anchor. The smuggler Snug not only has connections with the Constitutional Army, but also has dealings with the Royal Navy. He is really a smuggler with great power. These processed alchemical metals are urgently needed by the army. There are not many alchemists in the Marquis' territory. It is unknown how long it will take to produce so much alchemical metal. It is more convenient and faster to smuggle from the Alchemical Council. "Hello, Mr. Furnace, long time no see." "Viscount Church, long time no see. I didn't expect that I was delivering goods for you." "You can't say that. You are not delivering goods for me, but for the Marquis." Church looked at the Oyster Bay port flag and the Belfort port flag on the giant, and was somewhat envious of the strength of the furnace. One voyage opened up all the relationships on the Sarago Sea. Noble knights, alchemists, pirates, and evil god priests all had to give face to the furnace. He could go wherever he wanted, and no one could do anything to the furnace. This was the influence after the news of the 20 resurrections spread. "Mr. Furnace, I'm looking at the 2 flags of the alchemist's port. You have been recognized by the alchemist. I wonder if you can let my people take a ride on the boat in the future." "Your intelligence officer?" That's easy, of course. Great. Mr. Furnace, I was worried that there was no way to send my people over. Now it's good. There is finally a stable smuggling channel. But I am only responsible for sending people. After you go over, you have to be responsible for the safety of your men. It's inconvenient for me to make any big moves after I go ashore. Understood, as long as you enter the alchemist's port, the rest depends on the intelligence personnel's own means, Church said. Mr. Furnace, there will be a meeting the day after tomorrow night. You are a big merchant. The marquee means that if you are interested, you can go and listen. What meeting? The Blood Clan in the wilderness sent people to discuss the wilderness with the marquee. Are you interested? When he heard that it was about the wilderness, Rudolph raised his eyebrows and said, I am interested, very interested. It's getting more and more chaotic. Even the Blood Clan has come out to move. It seems that the chaos in the wilderness can't be covered up. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 610. On the third night, Rudolph waited in the Marquis's palace. After midnight, he was led to the Marquis's study by Church. These vampires were deliberately mysterious and insisted on talking about things so late. After entering the Marquis's study, Rudolph saw 5 vampires sitting on a long sofa. These vampires were of high level, and the weakest vampires were the same as Vanya. Rudolph saw Eric in red among them, a level 6 vampire sitting at the edge. The vampire sitting in the middle was at least a level 7 vampire, a high-level vampire with a lifespan of thousands of years. Such a vampire woke up from his slumber, obviously encountering something extremely important to the vampire. The leading vampire noticed Rudolph, because Rudolph was not wearing a military uniform or a servant's dress, but a suit, which looked very special. Falcon attendant Church explained to the vampires, Mr. Rusfan, this is Mr. Furnace, an important friend of the Golden Anchor family. No need to introduce in detail. After Rusfan woke up from his slumber, he heard the name of Furnace many times. He was the most active wizard in the Saragosi in the past 10 years and could resurrect the immortal phoenix at least 20 times. Especially Eric in red. Eric must have popularized what happened in the Saragosi to the vampires. Eric doesn't like to sleep. Although it will shorten his life, he can live a colorful life. Oh, it's Mr. Furnace. No matter how heavy the coffin is, it can't stop your name from entering my ears. Thank you Mr. Rusfan for your compliment. I hope that my name will be accompanied by good things when it appears. From Eric's face, Rudolph's expectations were obviously dashed. The people on the side of the Golden Anchor Marquis took their seats one after another, and there were also 5 people on the side of the Marquis. The Marquis himself, a second steward who was temporarily here to replace Windler and whom Rudolph didn't know, the chief of staff, Falcon attendant Church, and Rudolph. The vampire Rusfan spoke directly. Mr. Marquis, I came here to convey the attitude of our vampire ancestor, the 9th level vampire Dracula. We heard that the werewolves have sent messengers to ask you to join them in attacking the Elba Alchemy Council from the east and west. For this reason, the vampires took the lead and flew over to discuss with you. Please do not agree to the werewolves' request. Rudolph immediately understood why the vampires had this request. The vampires, who also lived in the wilderness, did not want the werewolves to obtain the power of immortality, otherwise they would be suppressed by the werewolves in the wilderness. After hearing the vampires' request, Marquis Palu slowly said, Mr. Rusfan, this is a war. There is a fierce war going on between us and the Alchemy Council. Countless nobles took off their silk and put on military uniforms to fight on the front line. Countless soldiers left their hometowns and sacrificed their lives here. Please give me a reason to convince me. The expectations of the vampires alone are not enough for me to express my opinion on this matter. Whether to cooperate with the vampires or the werewolves, Marquis Jin Anchor only has the power to suggest, not the power to decide. It is not so easy to get the Marquis of Golden Anchor to express his opinion on this matter. Rusfan was not surprised by the Marquis's attitude. He also knew that the werewolves' behavior was to help the Royal Navy. He said, "My Lord Marquis, we found giants in the wilderness. This is extremely rare. Giants, such apostles, only have large-scale settlements in the Megwen Empire. Giants in other places would rather hide in the grain stacks and not leave the grain stacks to eat and drink. We got a message from the captured giants. The royal astrologer of the Megwen Empire made a divination, and the power of destruction that belonged to the werewolves appeared in the world. Even if the werewolves attack the Elba Alchemy Council, they are not helping you, but seeking the power of immortality. Their purpose is not simple." Marquis Palu shook his head and said, "No matter what the werewolves' purpose is, if they attack the Alchemy Council, it will objectively help us. As for the power of destruction you mentioned, immortality is so precious and is the highest pursuit of the apostles. It is something that the 9th-level apostles need to consider. If you and I know it, it means that someone deliberately let you and me know it. To be honest, I am a 6th-level knight and you are a 7th-level vampire. We are not worthy of thinking about immortality. Unless His Majesty the King gives me a new order, I will not think about the power of destruction." Rudolph felt that the Marquis's thinking was very clear and his understanding was very accurate. If Yvonne and Mr. Butcher were not involved in the matter of the power of destruction, Rudolph would not even look at it and would just want to stay away from it. "You just mentioned the King of Elba. You and I may not care about the power of destruction, but King Carloman XVI must care very much." Marquis Palu shook his head, "Then please go to the capital. This kind of thing is beyond my authority. I can't decide whether to cooperate with a certain force. The Blood Clan has not given up, Marquis Palu. I hope to make a suggestion for you. Please go. I think you can consider it for His Majesty Carloman XVI. His Majesty must have ideas about the power of destruction. If you can show His Majesty that you can maintain your advantage on the front line even without the participation of werewolves, I think His Majesty can pursue the power of destruction more confidently and boldly." It turned out that the Blood Clan's purpose was to let Marquis Golden Anchor issue a letter of guarantee to make it easier for Carloman XVI to reject werewolves. This request was decisively rejected by Marquis Palu. "I can't make this promise. It's impossible for me to risk the lives of officers and soldiers." Marquis Palu was determined and raised his hand to signal the attendants to see him off. The people on the Marquis side stood up one after another. They were not going to talk to the Blood Clan anymore. The Blood Clan stood up helplessly and saluted the Marquis. After leaving the Marquis' study, everyone walked forward slowly. The Blood Clan was because of the unfavorable negotiations, and the people on the Marquis side did not surpass the Blood Clan out of courtesy. Until a fork, Chief of Staff Albert and others said that there were many things to deal with in the army and left first. After watching the others leave, Rudolph walked to Eric in red. "Eric, I didn't expect to see you here." "No way, I am most familiar with Saraguhe, so the family asked me to lead the way for Mr. Rusfan." After the two exchanged a few words, Rudolph asked, "Eric, I have a personal problem that I want to get your help." "Please go ahead, it's a great honor." When Furnace was still a level 5 wizard, he was on par with Eric at level 6. Now Furnace has been promoted to a level 6 wizard, and his strength is terrifying. Eric dare not neglect it? Rudolph asked, "I want to ask you about werewolves. Are there any ways for werewolves wandering outside the wilderness to refuse the call of the werewolf ancestors? I have also heard about the prophecy of the power of destruction. I have a friend who is a werewolf. She is troubled by the call of the ancestral mountain, but she doesn't want to go to the ancestral mountain to serve Corvinus. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 611. Fight the call of the werewolf ancestor. Eric immediately became alert when he heard that it was about weakening the werewolf tribe. He said, "It is difficult to prevent the werewolves who are wandering outside from being affected by the call, but there is a way. In the Xuanhuan mountains where Corvinus lives, there grows a special kind of aconitum. If the werewolves eat that aconitum, they can fight against the call of the Xuanhuan. The aconitum on the Xuanhuan carries the breath of the Xuanhuan. After eating the aconitum, the werewolves will also have the breath of the Xuanhuan. This breath is very important. It is the breath that only the Xuanhuan werewolf tribe has. Once the werewolf tribe in the wilderness smells the breath of the Xuanhuan, they will understand that this is the messenger sent by the Xuanhuan werewolf tribe. With this breath, they will not be affected by the Xuanhuan call." Rudolph frowned. The good news is that there is really a way to make Ivan fight against the Xuanhuan call. The bad news is that this method is very difficult to achieve. Every generation of Corvinus claims to be the ancestor of the werewolves and the only level 9 werewolf in the world. Corvinus can use wolf poison to create countless level 8 werewolves and lower level werewolves, but there will only be one level 9 werewolf, and it will only be passed down from generation to generation. Rudolph's growth rate is very fast, but he still has a long way to go before he can fight against a level 9 apostle. Among the apostles, level 1 to level 4 is a stage, level 5 to level 8 is a stage, and level 8 to level 9 will undergo a qualitative change like level 4 to level 5. Thinking about my own experience, a level 5 Nantian wizard is much stronger than a level 4 wizard, and a level 9 apostle is also much stronger than a level 8 apostle. The aconitum on the ancestral mountain? This condition is really difficult to achieve. It is indeed difficult. This is the only way. The blood control of werewolves is not as strict as that of the vampires, but they have a unique beast soul calling technique. High-level werewolves have strong control over low-level werewolves. Most of the replacements of wolf kings are because the previous generation of wolf kings are so old that their hair is sparse, and they will be killed by young werewolves in the tribe. Otherwise, the head wolf has a very strong control over the tribe. Rudolph asked, "You said that the werewolves will join the war to deal with the Elba Alchemy Council?" "Yes, the preparations for war cannot be hidden. There are werewolf tribes gathering and preparing for war everywhere in the wilderness." Rudolph suddenly thought of a possibility. If a large number of werewolves left the ancestral mountain during the war, especially the distant ancestor of the werewolves, Corvinus, left the ancestral mountain, Rudolph might have a certain possibility of lurking in and getting the aconitum on the ancestral mountain for Ivan. Rudolph asked for another piece of news. "You said that the werewolves will also contact the Marquis." Yes. Before Eric said anything, he saw Rusfan coming over. Eric quickly saluted Rusfan, a vampire who was one level higher than him and lived longer. "Mr. Rudolph, I have heard a lot about you these days. I hope it is all good news." Rusfan smiled and said, "As far as we know, you can influence the Marquis of Palu. You think too highly of me. I am just a friend of the Marquis's fourth son and cannot influence the Marquis's decision. A month ago, the Marquis of Golden Anchor was ready to escort the supplies himself, but this would put the front line in danger. At this time, your shipping company appeared and helped the Marquis a lot. There is no need to be modest. You have a great influence on the Golden Anchor family," Rusfan said. "I hope you can help me persuade the Marquis not to stand on the side of the werewolves. If the Marquis has changed his mind, and we will definitely offer you a generous reward." Rudolph asked, "Excuse me, does your blood clan have the aconitum from the werewolf ancestor mountain? I'm in urgent need of aconitum now. If you have it, I'll go to the Marquis now." Rusfan was stunned when he heard this, and shook his head. "Unfortunately, the ancestor mountain is right under the nose of Corvinus. Unless the two sides fight to the point of extermination, the blood clan cannot appear near the ancestor mountain, and we can't get anything from the ancestor mountain. In that case, I'm sorry, except for the aconitum from the ancestor mountain, there is nothing I must have. In the staff within a few days, the nobles and officers quarreled. Some officers believed that this was a godsend opportunity. As long as the werewolf Elba Alchemy Council attacked the Constitutional Army from the west, they would be able to defeat the Constitutional Army on the Eastern Front. Some officers believed that what was the use of the land swept by the werewolves? Once the werewolves joined the war, they would destroy all the people, animals, and buildings on the land. What if we win the war? What the nobles need is not a wasteland, but food and population, horses and weapons. The officers were arguing endlessly, and the Marquis of Palu at the front was not as confident as when he just rejected the blood race. He was also hesitant. The blood race hoped that the Marquis of Palu would express his position in front of the royal family, and the Marquis of Palu would certainly refuse. However, he was also hesitant about whether to join forces with the werewolves. The butler entered the meeting room and whispered in the ear of the Marquis, "Mr. Marquis, the squire of the Duke of Unicorn hopes to see you." The Duke of Unicorn is the commander-in-chief of the Royal Army and is responsible for the front battlefield. The Royal Army and the Royal Navy need to cooperate, and the coordination work is completed by the Duke and the Marquis' squires. Hearing that the Duke's squire wanted to see him, the Marquis understood that the Duke of Unicorn had made a decision and hoped to communicate with him. As the main war faction among the court nobles, the Duke of Unicorn and the Marquis of Palu have always been allies who advance and retreat together. He left the meeting room and prepared to meet the Duke's squire in the side room. Soon, the Marquis learned the attitude of the Duke of Unicorn. The Duke of Unicorn did not want the werewolves to join the war, and the Duke brought an updated message. The Duke of Unicorn knew that the royal family did not announce it to the outside world, but the royal family was going to set up the fiefdoms of the nobles who were awarded for their meritorious service in the war in the land controlled by the Alchemy Council. In other words, if the place was turned into a wasteland, then these new nobles with military merits would have to establish their own fiefdoms in the ruins. The Marquis of Golden Anchor understood the Duke's meaning, but he also felt that the nobles who advocated war might not be able to change the will of the royal family. After delivering the goods on the giant, the Royal Navy asked the giant to take some wounded back to Golden Anchor port. At Rudolph's urging, the volcano and the giant quickly set sail for Golden Anchor port. According to Rudolph's plan, the newly established Volcano Trading Company will shuttle back and forth between the four major ports of Golden Anchor Port, Cotter Port, Oyster Bay Port and Belfour Port, and operate regular trade or smuggling trade between these four ports. The logistics of the Royal Navy can be transported from Golden Anchor Port to Cotter Port, which is the most stable and profitable business. Food can be smuggled from Cotter Port to Oyster Bay Port. The noble territories are rich in food, but the land controlled by the alchemists is not fertile. The fertile nobles have taken it away long ago. In addition, the population has entered the factory, and the food output is not high. It is necessary to import food all the time. There is a huge demand for trade between the four ports. As long as it is well managed, the wealth of the Volcano Trading Company will accumulate rapidly. This is more laborious than operating a pirate port, but the benefits are much greater. The reason why Rudolph was anxious to leave Cotter Port this time was not because he was in a hurry to make money, but because he wanted to avoid the werewolf delegation. The Blood Clan told him that the werewolves sent a delegation to discuss with the Elba royal family about jointly attacking the Elba Alchemy Council. Rudolph did not want to meet the werewolf delegation in Cotter Port, otherwise Yvonne would be in danger. The volcano and the giant left earlier than the Blood Clan ship. The Blood Clan ship was the Blood Lake of Eric the Red. After a few days, the Blood Lake also left the port of Cotter. They will go to the capital to test the attitude of the royal family. 10 days later, the Royal Navy found a suspicious ship on the sea. This ship was obviously from the ancient Sea Wizard Association. It was a ship of the Wizard Association. But when the warship approached, it was found that there were werewolves on the ship. These werewolves did not know how to hang flags for maritime identification, and the warship almost opened fire. Just as the Blood Clan messenger said, the werewolves really sent messengers. Still in the Marquis study, the Marquis met with several werewolves. The leading werewolf wore a yellow suit. This kind of bright yellow suit is only worn by clowns in operas, and it is rarely seen in daily life. However, it is not easy for werewolves to find a suit that fits them. When the level 7 werewolf Dolph saw the Marquis enter the study, he stood up and gave the Marquis a newly learned noble salute. "Dear Marquis, it's a pleasure to meet you. We are in the west of the continent and rarely go so deep into human towns. The port of Khadr is impregnable under your defense. The poor Constitution army has no chance at all. I feel desperate for them." Faced with the flattery of the werewolves, or the sudden goodwill released by the werewolves, the Marquis of Palu did not react much. Before the kingdom of Elba was divided, the werewolves had always been the main source of chaos on the western border. Now the werewolves suddenly came to the door to cooperate, which was also a strange thing. "Mr. Dolph, if you have any needs, please speak up. The Royal Navy's Western Fleet is under great defensive pressure, so I cannot leave the front line for a long time." Dolph did not care about the impatience in the Marquis tone at all, and he said happily, "Mr. Marquis, I am here to help you solve this matter. In the near future, the werewolves in the wilderness will leave their tribe and head towards the city of Lajur, where the House of Lords of the Alchemy Council is located. By then, the pressure on your side will definitely be much less. The Constitutional Army will have to deploy a large part of its forces on the Western Front, and we will work with you to punish the alchemists who betrayed the royal family." After Dolph finished speaking, he was excited. He thought that the Marquis would agree to this plan with his eyes shining and excitement. However, the werewolf Dolph found that the Marquis was very calm. "My Lord Marquis, I know that some flying rats came to Quarter Port before us. My Lord Marquis, they just want the situation to be more chaotic. They can only jump up and down, unlike us, who can really affect the situation." The flying rats that Dolph mentioned are the derogatory names of the werewolves for the vampires. How to say this name? It is quite vivid. Marquis Palu said, "Since you know that the vampires have been here, I will also tell you what I said to the vampires. As for whether to cooperate with the werewolves, everything will wait for the order of His Majesty the King. Please leave as soon as possible. I have no power to decide whether to cooperate with the werewolves." Dolph frowned. The Marquis in front of him was very stubborn. Of course, he knew that the Marquis could not decide the royal family's foreign policy. What he wanted was the Marquis attitude, an attitude of supporting cooperation with the werewolves. Sometimes, not expressing an attitude is also an attitude. The royal family is full of smart people. Cooperation with the werewolves is beneficial to the current situation, but the Marquis Palu on the front line did not express his opinion on the cooperation, which proves that the Marquis is opposed to it. For some unknown reason, the Marquis resisted this cooperation, which was clearly beneficial to the Royal Navy. Dolph didn't say much. For a person like the Marquis, it was impossible to persuade him to change his mind with words. Just as the Marquis said, no one could change the Marquis's will unless it was an order from His Majesty the King. He is not discouraged because he believes that the nobles need werewolves more than the werewolves need the nobles more. No matter what the nobles choose, the werewolves will set off a wave of wolves that will sweep through the entire Alchemy Council of Elba. After the werewolf left, Marquis Palu asked Mr. Child on the side, "Mr. Child, have you collected any more useful information?" "There is a new piece of information related to the city of Legara that the werewolf mentioned just now," Child said with confused eyes. "Werewolves have definitely hidden their true purpose. Recent predictions by major astrologers indicate that the city of Legara is likely to be the place where the power of destruction appears in the prophecy of Hermes. Is this why the werewolf went to Legara? It is very possible that since the prophecy of destruction of authority appeared, Many word spirits have been paying attention to the Mogwen Empire, and a lot of true and false news has spread from there. I think this news is very likely to be true. If the power of destruction appears in Legara, then Marquis Palu frowned and said, then the city of Legara is likely to become a ruin. Whether the werewolves attack or the royal knights of the Mogwen Empire enter, the place will be razed to the ground. The so-called destruction means at least the destruction of the city of Legara. Is it that serious? Even the royal knights of the Mogwen Empire may be dispatched. The power of destruction is too tempting for level 9 apostles. It is true eternal life. But, Marquis Palu said. However, the land controlled by the Alchemy Council is also the land of my kingdom of Elba. When the werewolves came in, didn't they also attack our land? Lord Marquis, does Duke Unicorn have the same attitude? Yes, our civil war is to solve the future development of the kingdom of Elba. It is an internal problem. But once the werewolves invade, the wasteland of thousands of miles is not just a few words in the history books, it is what the border will face immediately. Reality. After sighing, Marquis Palu said, I don't know how His Majesty the King will deal with it. I hope he can find a path with the least loss for the Elba people, instead of letting the Elba people become the objects of destruction in the power of destruction.